every film has some reference to technology, whether it's Don Amici using the telephone as Alexander Graham Bell, but this one, technology was part of the plot. It drove it, and when you heard Bitcoin, you thought, wow, this is a different attitude toward embracing the moment of technology too.
Well, Rick wanted to make a movie, kind of a modern John Hughes movie, and you can't make a movie about high school today without having all of the social networking and technology that I know my kids know about that I don't know about. So, it was funny because there were a lot of people who read the script to say, so this is a 90s movie? Like a lot of people thought it was a period film because of the passion that all the characters exuded for 90s and 90s hip hop. But I think that was obviously, showing that it's a movie for now. And, I know from my high school daughter, there's no way she's not functioning without, all of the social networking that she does.
Nina, this film goes back and forth between comedy and drama, and the moment when Malcolm pulls the gun just really makes your head swivel 180 degrees. How hard is it to keep that nuance without letting it tip too far one way?
That was an issue that we talked, me, Forrest Whitaker, and Rick talked about because of the tonal shifts in the script. And it was a process of finessing the tones, making sure we don't go too far, but at the same time have an important message that we all want to tell, because these kids from Inglewood, California, or any other, urban neighborhoods, they face these issues of crime, drugs, gangs, and it's real. It's the reality. And I remember some of the things that, early on in the script, I was like, Rick, these seem really extreme. And he's like, well, that's what I lived through. I grew up in Inglewood. I've seen all these crime in front of me, happen in front of me. I've seen kids killed in front of me. So let's just be truthful about it. So it's about balancing the tone during script level and during production. He was able to manage that. But it's very authentic and truthful.
You shot this in 25 days, pretty much all in Inglewood. What was it like to do that? That's a tough shooting schedule, plus you're in Inglewood. What kind of reaction were you getting from the locals as you were out doing this?
We actually shot all around Los Angeles, and we did several days in Inglewood. It's very difficult to shoot in Inglewood because of the releases that I had to sign. so the releases were so... It was really daunting.
How so?
It would be like, please sign away your life, because if something should happen to your talent, your crew, and we don't respond fast enough, or our cops, our city, are never responsible for any harm or death that occurs. It's like signing something like that. It was crazy.
Is that routine?
Only for the city of Inglewood, city of Compton. So because they've, productions have run into problems in certain cities because gang relations. You have to hire a gang liaison. You have to hire a gang relations person. You have to hire extra security. You have to up your insurance times 5. There's so many elements that really hinder independent production. So we made sure that we needed to capture everything we need from Inglewood, the landmarks that we needed. Then we had to move out of Inglewood and shoot in surrounding cities. We even shot some in Van Nuys, but then we're dealing in Van Nuys with Mexican gangs. So it was a constant issue of being aware of what was going on, being aware of our surroundings, making sure our actors were dressed properly in vests, that they weren't mistaken for real gangsters. It was just a lot of awareness throughout, So.
So David, one of the things I found most touching about this is that it didn't slip into caricature the way it might have been so easy.
Well, this was about Rick. So much of this was about Rick, and Malcolm is very much like Rick. He has a photographic memory.
Yes, that was funny.
And
how he finessed that too was very funny.
No, but listen, this for him was very real. He on the movie that he met Forrest and did for him, it was a director for hire job. Rick is a writer-director, and I think he kind of felt like he needed to get back to his roots. So that's what he did in a very authentic, truthful way.
And Patrik Milani, just as you say, an outsider, you're someone who comes here from Italy. How did the whole scenario strike you that as you get into the mindset, the neighborhoods that are portrayed in this?
I actually have a lot of books. There's one book that was called Back in the Days, in the Time Before Crack, that this who was a photojournalist who took these amazing photos. And it had been a period also where I was looking a lot of 90s music videos. I don't know why, but that was happening. And I also lived through the 90s. But again, through Instagram mostly, that was really helpful to get what people actually dressed like. There was a kid at Inglewood High that dresses like Malcolm.
But like you couldn't loiter around Inglewood High, as you said, it would look kind of creepy.
Very creepy. And I couldn't really friend them on Instagram, but I would follow them. But I have a binder this big that I would show Rick of all these people that were, obviously I was following the people that were more stylish, who were into music, but so it was, I'm a costume designer. So
how, beyond the three principles, how did you use the clothes to define the nature of the characters, the other characters,
well,
like
obviously,
Dom?
The character of Quincy and his sister, he was wearing kind of Givenchy clothes, and Lily especially. Sorry, I'm blocking. What's her name? Lily. Chanel Iman, who I had met when she was 15 at an Yves Saint Laurent show. I think it was her first job. She stuck sort of between a childish, with her MDMA use. So I used terry cloth. Her whole thing was kind of like a baby onesies. That was.
Except when, and I guess that Lee, you had to deal with this because Chanel had to vomit, of course, in this. So I don't know, how hard was it to edit all that rice pudding? So
she had to vomit quite a few times. And poor Shamik just kept taking it in the face, and
that was really him screaming.
Yes, that was a natural reaction.
How much did the music drive the film and the editing of it, and how did you sync those things together?
The music was definitely the backbone of the film. It really gave it the life, and not only the 90s hip-hop cues that were in there and the rap cues, but Pharrell's original 4 songs really brought the characters out, and it was at that point where we knew what was going on in their minds, and that, and the fact that all 3 of them actually sang all the songs is just amazing. I mean, the last song in the movie, Kiersey's voice is just so bold, and it's awesome.
So you're hearing that soundtrack in your head as you're editing. So
yeah, exactly.
What were some of the most unexpected reactions that any of you've gotten, Nina, to this?
Unexpected was because it was such a labor of love, and it's a challenge to make this film. As you can see, it's a big movie to make it independently. So biggest surprise is we kind of lost perspective because it was so tough to get it to Sundance, and having a premiere there where the audience responded so beautifully and loved it and laughed and standing ovation. It was worth it all. That was the biggest surprise for me, and just happy.
I concur with that, and then also the other really nice surprise was when we screened in Cannes a month ago, and to see a European audience, predominantly white audience, embrace it the way it did and give it a standing ovation, and also how the cast who was there were both embraced and also kind of emboldened, and you just felt like you were seeing the birth of the next generation of great movie stars. That was really a surprise and really kind of wonderful to experience.
Nina, when you did Fruitvale Station, the story of Oscar Grant, the young man who was shot by the transit officer in San Francisco, you said you felt a lot of responsibility to his family, to his portrayal. Where's the responsibility here to the community or the even plural communities being portrayed?
I think everything that significant production for us and I get involved with has a certain amount of message that we want to tell our audience. And this movie, Dope, talks about the racial issues, perception that is prevalent in our country today, continues to be an issue and concern and problem, of what just happened on Thursday. So we want to talk about identity. And also not to judge people because Malcolm is like at the end when he broke the fourth wall. You're talking about what was perception of a kid growing up in Inglewood in a bad neighborhood. So hopefully people will take away that, hey, this is a great fun movie, but it really has a social message about perception and race.